Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Potsie Chronicles. And today, we got an episode, all right. Isn't that right?
Yes, we are on episode 9, believe it or not, of season 1. This episode is called Breaking Up is Hard to Do. One thing that we like to do here is, even though my son has seen the episode, before he watches it, I have him look at the title and try and guess what he thinks the episode is going to be about. So breaking up is hard to do. When you saw that, what did you think this was going to be about?
Now, I thought a breakup would be involved, but I thought it would be like the Fonz and some girl, because normally, like, he's always with some new girl and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I was thinking maybe, like, in this episode, like, he might have shown, like, some emotion towards breaking up with that girl or something, because normally he doesn't really care about them, just like we saw in episode 7, where it was like, just go find me a 4-leaf clover.
Yeah, that's a good one. I wonder if it's even breaking up for the Fonz. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it seems like he just has a new girl and he doesn't even consider breaking up. What if it was actually about Howard and Marion? That would be a sad episode for episode 9. You know what I mean?
I was like kind of thinking that, but I was like, no, they wouldn't do that.
I really wonder if they had Howard and Marion break up in episode 9, if that would have been the end of the first season. I don't know, like 1974, well, I do know what some of the topics were about in 1974. You would think that divorce would be kind of on the table, considering last week they were at a strip club called the Pink Palace, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but thankfully it wasn't. Howard and Marion are still happily married, which we'll also talk about in this episode. Let me ask you this. If Howard and Marion were to sadly get a divorce in this episode, do you think that one of them would get custody of Chuck even though he's a grown man? And if so, who?
That is a very good question. I don't know. I'd probably say Marion.
This would put Howard in the horrible Howard category, even though this didn't actually happen. But I would think Howard would not want him, considering the bad things that he said about him. I mean, I don't mean to say he wouldn't want him. Well, maybe. I don't know. Like, he doesn't seem to have a kind word to say about Chuck.
Here's what I was kind of thinking. That definitely adds to it.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, I feel like it's half and half with the amount of times I've said he's horrible Howard or he's helpful Howard.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I don't know. Especially if we have to determine if he was helpful or horrible.
Yeah.
And we don't have that for Marion. I feel like Marion would get custody.
Yeah, I think so too. Also, what if this was like a two-parter and Marion didn't realize that Howard actually went to the Pink Palace? Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe that would have been the breaking up. Like, she's like, well, you said you're going to a gentleman's club. I didn't know it was Eddie's Pink Palace. And then they were breaking up, you know?
I thought you were going to say Eddie's Pink Palace once in the last episode.
I said it once in the last episode. I feel like I've said it like 30 times already in this first 3 minutes. But yeah. So anyways, it was not Howard and Marion, thankfully, getting divorced. They're still happily married. And we'll talk a little bit about that because they play a prominent role in this. But let me ask you this. What if it was breaking up with Chuck and basketball? What if Chuck suffered a career-ending ACL tear? Now, let me ask you this. In the 1950s, could they have repaired an ACL? Or do you think that that would have been the end of Chuck's career if he would have torn his ACL? Because now, they repair it. It takes a little while, to come back, as we've seen in the NBA from last year and years prior. Like, could they have fixed Chuck in the 1950s? Or would his career have been over with an ACL tear? What do you think?
Sadly, I think that would probably be the end of Chuck's career.
Yeah, and they probably would have had to have that doctor with the big case that makes house calls come and do that. That could be an alternate Happy Days episode. I wouldn't want to do the Marion and Howard breakup alternate episode. Let's just leave that under wraps. But Chuck and basketball, as sad as that would be, that might be something where he tears his ACL. But then maybe he's like the first surgery for ACL in the 1950s, and it's a happy end. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, the show is called Happy Days.
Yeah, so it's like, this could be a two-parter. Like, the first one's like, Chuck tore his ACL. He's never going to play basketball again. Then the doctor with the big bag is like, hey, I've been working on this new reconstructive surgery. You think they had that in the 50s, reconstructive? You think they used those words together in the 50s?
I don't even know.
Yeah, but let's just say he does. He's like, hey, I've worked on this reconstructive surgery. And they're like, wait, what's reconstructive surgery? And he's like, well, this. And then he fixes Chuck.
That would be Chuck's happy day.
Yeah, so there we go. Alternate Happy Days episode. Chuck breaks up with basketball, then he gets back together with basketball.
Yes.
All right. So let's go ahead and dive into the episode. Breaking up is hard to do. Marion and Howard did not break up. Thankfully, Chuck is, I would assume, still okay in playing basketball. We didn't see him this episode, spoiler alert.
Sadly.
Yeah. So, yeah, but it wasn't that anyway. So we cut to the Arnold's parking lot. Did you notice there was like 10 guys pushing a car?
No, I just remember just cutting into the Arnold's parking lot.
Yeah, there's an Arnold's parking lot. I don't know what it is in the 1950s and like so many people riding in cars. Like a Kia Sorento. Is that a car, a Kia Sorento? I know a Kia is a car. Is it Sorento? I don't know.
No idea.
Yeah, let's just say a Kia Sorento. Let's say that I made up a car called the Kia Sorento if it doesn't already exist. Like, you couldn't fit, I don't think you could fit 10 people in a Kia Sorento. I'd say probably like 5. So I don't know how they were fitting so many people in the cars back in the 50s. They were bigger, but not that much bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, anyways, there was some 50s song playing, and I don't know what it was. And they're pushing this. And then we cut to inside of Arnold's. Richie is on one side of the booth. Apparently his girlfriend, was her name Arlene? I think it was Arlene. Yeah, it was Arlene is on the other side. And they're kind of bickering, for lack of a better word. Like he's saying, like, I'm not, I don't know if that was what he was saying, but they were kind of bickering. But as they were bickering, speaking of large crowds, I don't know what it is with the large crowds in the 50s. There's like 10 guys behind Richie, 10 ladies behind Arlene, and they're kind of echoing. So like when Richie's like, am not, they're like, yeah. And then when Arlene's like, M2, they're like, yeah. So they're going back and forth, you know, taking the side of their friend.
Yeah, I did not recognize any of the girls on Arlene's side. I did, however, recognize some of the boys on Richie's side. There was Potsie, Ralph Malph, and...
Was Cut in there?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, Cut is a character that... Well, yeah, just listen to another episode. You'll find out who Cut is. Now, I will say this, though. I did recognize one of the ladies. Trudy, here's where I recognize her from. I believe she was the girl that threw in a joke when Ralph Malph was in the parking lot saying that he was funny. She was the one that said her ponytail was too tight. I'm pretty sure that was her. It looked like her. But also, I feel like I heard the name Trudy, and we even said it on a previous episode. I don't know if she was one of their dates previously, or was she the girl that the Fonz sent to get a 4-leaf clover? I'm pretty sure we've seen Trudy before.
I don't know, honestly, because I don't really recognize the name.
That's the thing I recognize. I recognize the name. That's when I saw her, I'm like, she looks like the girl that was kind of trying to go tit for tat with Ralph Malph with the... Well, she didn't really do that. He said like 30 jokes. Well, probably not 30. He said like 4 jokes, and she jumped in with one about her ponytail being too tight. She's really the only joke that I remember. I don't know why I can't remember any of Ralph Malph's jokes when he's the king of comedy in Happy Days, you know?
I'm funny.
Yeah, I do remember that, of course. I'm funny. And pass the ball when it was frozen. So they're going back and forth. Then something happens where they're like, hey, you guys need to leave us alone. Oh, Potsie says it. Doesn't he? Potsie, the voice of reason's like, hey, guys, let's give Richie some privacy. And then Trudy, I think, is like, yeah, girls, let's do that. And everybody leaves but Potsie and Trudy because they're their best friends.
Yeah, and I don't remember who was the first one to do this, but I think Richie's like, yo, Potsie, can you just leave or something?
Yes.
And Arlene does the exact same thing to Trudy.
We find out what they're bickering about is that Richie didn't read the bulletin board. Do you know what a bulletin board is? Do they still have those? I would assume they do.
But what's a bulletin board?
Okay. So a bulletin board would have bulletins on it. And what a bulletin would be, for lack of a better word, would be like a notice. So, for example, if someone tried out for a play, they would post the results on the bulletin board. So, like, if someone wanted to be Romeo, like, it would say, hey, Ted Danson is playing Romeo. That would actually be a good, I'd like to see that, Ted Danson as Romeo. But it would say, this person's Romeo, this person's Juliet, and people would go and they'd be like all excited to see if they made the cut. Maybe they would do that for the baseball team and football team. I don't know if they would do that. I don't know. But anyways, they would post news on the bulletin board. So instead of nowadays, like maybe on TikTok, where they would send a notice that the prom committee was canceled, they would post it on the bulletin board. Does that make sense?
I think I understand it now.
Yeah. And then Richie didn't read the bulletin board. So it'd be like if Richie wasn't checking TikTok and maybe he missed the latest dance craze. You know what I mean? And then they'd be like, Richie, you're not doing the, I don't know, Waka Waka. Is that a dance craze in TikTok? That could be, wait a minute. I think we stumbled onto something. Richie invents the Waka Waka, right? And it takes over.
Hollywood producers, we're giving you ideas, all right.
Yeah, this is literally a gold mine. I hope you're cashing in. I hope you're going to give us a little taste of, not a little taste, a lot of taste. Richie invented the Waka Waka. Could you imagine that? If like a year from now, the new 6'7" is the Waka Waka that Richie Cunningham made?
Okay, listen, right?
Yes.
That would be an Oscar guaranteed, heck, maybe even an Emmy guaranteed show or movie, whichever one would work out better. Probably a series, probably everyone would, eat that up.
Wait, so you mean like, so he invents it, and then you think they make a movie or series out of it?
Yes.
What about a Netflix documentary? That would actually be an uplifting documentary too. I think they should do that and a Netflix documentary, because a lot of the Netflix documentary are like these true crimes, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we need a little bit more of Richie Cunningham inventing a TikTok dance craze. So yeah, I agree with you. Easy Oscar, easy Emmy, or both.
I think they'll just have a bunch of seasons of it.
Yeah.
And then once they're done with the show or whatever, they make a documentary so they could, milk it more.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I think they should do. I don't think they should come out with a documentary too soon yet,
Yeah. So there we go. Excellent. So Richie doesn't read the bulletin board. They start fighting and they play kind of a game of chicken. Do you know what the game of chicken is?
Is it like when they're going back and forth?
Yeah, they kind of go back and forth. So like a game of chicken, oddly enough, in the 50s, I think this might have actually been a 1950s movie where they would play. And I feel like the Fonz would or has played this. They would like drive right at each other. And then the person that moves would be the chicken. That's a game called chicken. And there's other things, probably not as dreary as two people trying to get into a head-on collision and somebody moving. But yeah, that's what you call chicken. But they're playing a game of chicken because they're playing a game like, hey, I guess you want to break up? Yeah, I guess you want to break up. I think they're waiting for someone to say like, oh, I don't want to break up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And neither one of them are saying that. So, and again, remember, chicken is like the worst thing you could call somebody in the 50s, it seems like, because that was the whole thing with Skizzy. If you go back to another episode where he didn't want to race the Fonz, but then someone said, what are you, chicken? And then that's when he, came full force. So yeah, they're playing a game of chicken, going back and forth.
Doesn't Richie say, maybe I do want to break up?
Yeah, that's kind of the whole thing where he's like, oh, I guess you want to break up. Maybe I do want to break up. So they're doing this. And then she mentions, oh, I guess you want your ring back. And he's like, I guess I do. I guess you want your ID bracelet back. Now, I don't even know what an ID bracelet is. Is that like a meta alert bracelet? Like, which that would be bad if she has like a medical bracelet, and he's got it and he's soaking it. He said he's soaking like the stains off of it.
And then he has it at home.
But even if it isn't that, which I seriously doubt that it was a medical alert bracelet, even if it's like an ID bracelet, is an ID bracelet ID, as we know, is identification. Does it just have her name on it? Why does he have her bracelet with her name on it? If he loses it, it's not going to be returned to him,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very odd. So he's soaking her ID bracelet. Then they decide to give it back and they are broken up. So then we cut to the Cunningham house. They're all eating dinner. Howard does not want to get in a tuxedo. Then Marion's like, oh, you should wear this tuxedo. And she names all these distinguished people that wore tuxedos. And then Joni says, Charlie McCarthy. You probably have no idea what that is, do you?
Is that a person or is that something or what is
it? It is something. So it must have been the 50s, unless this show is 1974. Well, I mean, it was made in 1974, but we were talking on an earlier episode that maybe it's not supposed to be in the 50s because I never really mentioned the 50s. And maybe this was 1974 because, you know, I don't know what it was like in 1974. But anyways, Charlie McCarthy was I guess you could say puppet. Have you ever seen ventriloquists? Do you know what a ventriloquist is?
I have no idea what any of this is.
So a ventriloquist would be somebody that had... Back then, it was technically a puppet, but it wasn't a puppet that you wore in your hand, right? I'm trying to even think where you would see something like this. It was like, I guess for lack of a better word, it was a dummy. So they had kind of like a doll, if you will. You know what I mean? And the doll, they put the hand behind, maybe underneath the coat of the dummy, and they would either pull a string. Like I had one when I was a kid where you had to pull a string. Like it wasn't as fancy as that. You'd pull a string and the mouth would open. But yeah, I think back then they would put their hand and then they would move, the mouth would open up, you know, and it was, for lack of a better word, it was like a puppet, but it was a dummy, but it did have like the puppet head. Okay. And they would sit there and he'd have the dummy on his lap, but when he talked, like he wouldn't move his mouth, of course. You know what I mean? He'd be like, okay, this is a visual thing, but like, hey, how you doing? Oh, I can't even do it. But they did it and it sounded clearer than I just did. And Charlie McCarthy wore a tuxedo. I think he actually had a, what do you call those, a monocle? Like the Planters peanut guy. You know what that is, right? Like that kind of one glass thing, a monocle. I think he had that.
It's kind of like fancy.
Yeah, he wore a tuxedo. I don't know if the gentleman that was the ventriloquist wore a tuxedo. I would assume he did. I think that they were both dressed up, and I feel like there was a ventriloquist that won like America's Got Talent. That was probably like 20 years ago, though. Yeah, and I think everybody was, maybe not America's Got Talent. He won something, and then everyone got, oh, you know who's a ventriloquist? Have you ever seen that guy, Jeff Dunham? And he's got, I think, Peanut is the name. We'll watch it afterwards. Anyways, yeah, you might have seen a I don't know. I don't know when I would have ever shown you Jeff Dunham, so you probably have no idea. Anyways,
it does not sound familiar.
Yeah, no offense to any of his fans, but I certainly wouldn't have shown you Jeff Dunham. So they had a puppet, a kind of dummy, and like they would talk and they would act like it's a real person in a roundabout way. You know what I mean? So, but anyways, Joni says Charlie McCarthy, which is a ventriloquist dummy. So that's not really as complimentary as what Marion said. I think Marion said like President Eisenhower, and then Joni comes back with Charlie McCarthy, which is a ventriloquist dummy. And then we find out that he's going to wear a tuxedo because he's going to be chaperoning the big prom. And I'm just wondering, did the parents or grown-ups or chaperones, they wear tuxedos? They dress up the same to chaperone? Is that right? I don't remember. Like,
yeah, because I don't, like, I'm not from the 50s.
Yeah.
But, and really, I don't really know much about the 50s except for the stuff that's really happened in the Happy Days. But
you've been to a school dance, though, right?
Yes.
Are they dressed like you? Like when you guys, I feel like people dress up at the... So I'm just trying to remember when I went to school dances. When I went to prom, I don't remember any of the chaperones wearing tuxedos. They might have, you know. But, I mean, I know that the chaperones probably aren't wearing like muscle tees and jorts, right? But what are they wearing? Like, are they wearing like suits? Do you know? Do you remember?
So the chaperones are like helpers, right?
Yeah, they're the adults there that like just make sure everything's going, you know, because you're not going to have like a bunch of kids in a dance, I would assume. I wouldn't think so, but maybe. Are there wait, now we're on something. Are there chaperones at those dances you go to? Are there adults?
From what I've seen, there's adults for taking you in, and then like,
what are they wearing? Let's just cut to the chase.
Okay, just casual clothing.
So, like, let's say if you guys are wearing suits and ties, which I don't think you guys did, but maybe, are they wearing the similar stuff as you guys?
No.
Okay. So, yeah, that's where I'm having a problem with this. They're wearing tuxedos and formal wear when they're the chaperones. They're not. Now, I'm not saying that they should not be dressed up, but I feel like tuxedos are a little much. You know what I mean? For men to be wearing that are chaperones to proms. It's a little much,
Yeah,
in my
because
opinion.
I feel like they're not really going to be doing any dancing because
Yeah.
really they're just supposed to be helping.
Yeah.
So I don't really see the point in them dressing up, especially if they could save that for like another occasion. Sure, they can wash those clothes. Actually, wait,
Yes.
do you think they had washers and whatnot?
Yeah,
Back
that's a
then?
good point. Did Howard have to rent a tuxedo for this? I know, like, when I was at prom, we had tuxedo rentals because no one had a tuxedo. But Howard, did he have to rent it? And then, like you said, does he have to dry clean it? Like, what's going on here? I feel like that could have been on the bulletin board saying, hey, business casual to the chaperones, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure what happened and why they're doing that. So then Joni says something about Dracula had a tuxedo. So Joni isn't really very nice to her father, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not really nice to anyone, really.
Yeah. And then I believe it was here where they talk about Richie was broken up with Arlene. And doesn't Howard say, like, hey, you should still ask her to the prom because she's your only. Doesn't he even say, like, he doesn't say she's your only hope, but like she's the only one you can invite? Doesn't he say something like that? I believe he does. We didn't
Yeah,
take notes.
something similar to that.
Yeah, we really need to remember it.
I don't remember when, but doesn't Joni say, I know where all the makeup spots are?
Yeah, that happens, I believe, right after that. Is she says she has a map of the makeout spots. And then they're like, where'd you get it from? And apparently she got it from an 11-year-old. Doesn't even say like you got it from like not Punky Brewster. That's a show. Punky Brewster, actually, I think that was on after Happy Days got canceled. But Punky Brewster was not set in the 50s. It was, I think Punky Brewster was like 1985. Happy Days ended in 1984. But Punky Brewster, I believe, was set. Well, Punky Brewster could have been set in the 1950s for all I know. I don't know. You know what I mean? Now that I think about it, what if all those 80s shows were set in the 1950s and I didn't even realize it? You know? Could have
Yeah.
been. But anyways, Punky's so-and-so. And then Howard's like, but Punky so-and-so is only 11. How does he have it? And then she says, he got it from his sister, Hot Lips. So more with these names. Someone apparently named their child Hot Lips and then named their child Punky. The same parents.
Nothing can be better than Bag, though.
Yeah, Bag. I think Bag has overtaken Skizzy. At first, I wasn't so sure about it. I thought, Bag, what is this? But I think Bag's the best. But yes, she has a map of all the makeout spots that she got from her friend, that got from his older sister. So we cut to the Arnold's parking lot. Fonzie is working on, I believe, a policeman's car, right?
I think so.
And here's where the whole thing where I think in a previous episode I was talking about theft of the 50s. Fonzie's like talking to this, I'm pretty sure it's a police officer, and saying something about, what did you do with something I gave you? And the police officer said it got stolen. So here's two things. One, apparently they did have theft in the 50s. Again, I don't know why, if there was theft in the 50s, that photo booth is still standing, you know, that's outside of Arnold's, unless Arnold's just doesn't close.
Yeah.
And two, not only was there theft apparently in the 50s, somebody is stealing from a police officer, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wonder, like, who's stealing from that police officer.
And the police officer was kind of nonchalant about it. You know, he didn't like get out a book and list some suspects. You know, he just was like, oh, it got stolen. He's not like, you know, I'm just treading all over the town trying to find the guy that stole my catalytic converter or whatever it was, and the guy that stole my carburetor. You know what I mean? He seems very nonchalant. So then Richie comes up to Fonzie.
He's like asking, I believe, about if he should get back with Arlene or if he should ask Arlene to go to prom, right?
Yeah, he says something like, well, my dad said that I should ask Arlene. I don't think he mentions that his dad insinuated that was his only hope. But then Potsie says, what does he know? If he knew anything, he wouldn't be married or something, right? Didn't he say he'd be finding other girls or something?
Yeah.
Something to that effect. So the Fonz, as we can see, is not, really a marriage proponent. So then Richie does decide. So he goes into Arnold's, and then Arlene is at the jukebox, and they're talking about a new Pat Boone song. I'm not even going to describe Pat Boone to you, but do you know who Pat Boone is?
No.
Okay, you're going to have to Google that one. I'm not even going there. So then they're talking about this new Pat Boone song. And then Arlene, I think she says she's going to go by herself. And Richie's like, he's going to go by himself. Am I right about that? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I believe so. Except I think Richie says this might have happened after, but he's saying, well, I could pick you up.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Yeah, I think they're talking about they're going alone. Then Richie says, well, I'll just pick you up since we're both going alone because you're not too far from my house, right? Yeah. Okay. So that's how he kind of, again, like these two are very passive aggressive. You know what I mean? Like they first play that game of chicken and they break up. Neither one of them want to say anything. Then like it's obvious Richie, I don't know about Arlene. Maybe she's done with Richie. I don't know. It's hard to tell. She's into this new Pat Boone song, but
I mean, I would. I'd probably be tired of Richie as well.
Yeah. So we don't know where her head's at. We know where Richie's head's at, but even with his head there, he should have said, hey, what a stupid decision. I apologize. Let's go to prom together. You know what I mean? But he does not do that. He's very passive aggressive and just says it's on the way to pick you up. So then we cut to the Cunningham house. Joni is in the bathroom taking a bath, which here's what I'm thinking. This is like Richie's biggest night, even though he's passive aggressive. And even Howard and apparently Marion are chaperoning too. Howard's in a tux. Marion's not really she's wearing a nice dress, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really match the tuxedo level. It's more of like a business casual dress, which is what it should have said on the bulletin board. Although, do you think maybe it did say business casual on the bulletin board and Howard didn't read it, but Marion did?
That's a very Howard thing to do, so maybe.
That could be where Richie got it from, not reading the bulletin board. So Richie's like, I need something. It wasn't cufflinks, but it was something to do with the tuxedo that I have no idea. He needs those.
I feel like when Joni was in the restroom and also got out, the thing that they were looking for, I feel like she asked a million times, like, what's that? What is that?
Yeah.
And they just didn't answer.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it is. I wonder if they knew what it was. I think
Yeah.
Richie might have been the only one that knew what it was.
That's probably why they weren't answering.
And then Joni's in the bathtub, and Marion's like, well, I'm just going to go in and get him. And then Marion tries to open the door, and the door was locked. And we were talking in episode 1, go listen to it if you haven't already, about how we wondered if there were locks on the door because Howard just walked in on Richie taking a shower. But apparently there were because Joni had the door locked.
Honestly, here's what I think, right?
Yes.
I think that maybe there was just like a lock on the bathroom door.
Yeah.
But I don't know about Richie's room because going back to which episode was that where they had fake IDs?
The last one, yeah.
Yeah. In the last episode, Marion kept on coming in, just like bursting through the door and whatnot. And I feel like, especially with something like, that could get these, 4?
Yeah.
In really big trouble, you think they'd lock the door.
Yeah. So either they didn't have. Oh, wait a minute. You know what I think happened? Remember how Fonzie couldn't get that lock off of the chain and he gave it to Richie as a present?
Yeah.
Howard is a hardware guy. Maybe Richie gave it to Howard and Howard's like, I can fix this. And he's like, okay, we have one lock. I'm going to put on the bathroom. And Richie's like, no, I need it just in case I ever have pockets come over on the bedroom door. And Howard's like, I'm the one that took it off, damn it. I'm putting it on the bathroom door. You know what I mean? That could be. You think that's possible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe Howard, although it was kind of one of those other padlocks. I don't know. Howard is a hardware guy, so I'm sure he could do it.
I can't remember if we discussed it in the last episode or not, but which name do you think is better, bag or pockets?
Oh, man. That's a tough one. Because, again, I wasn't, first with bag, I'm like, I don't know. But then it was like, wait, I do like bag. But then pockets.
I know my answer.
I feel okay. I'm going to say bag. And here's why bag. You could conceivably have another character named Pockets somewhere. Probably not as good as this Pockets. But I feel like there's only one bag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How about you? What do you say?
I say bag as well. And here's my reasoning, right?
Okay.
It's simple and short.
Yeah.
While with pockets, it's like, it's too much to say. There's too many syllables,
Yeah.
you know? But bag, it's just simple, you know? All you got to do is say bag. You're just like pockets, you know?
Yeah. And bag gets all the ladies, whereas I think pockets probably, I'm pretty sure that police officer that thought Howard was the ringleader probably has gotten to pockets by now, don't you think?
Sadly, probably.
Yeah. So, anyways, yes. So let's move on. So then we hear a doorbell or a knock on the door. I can't remember which. Did they? I'm pretty sure they had doorbells in the 50s, right? I feel like they might have.
Yeah, probably then.
Let's say we heard a doorbell then. And then it's Joni's babysitter because not only is Richie going to the prom, since it is his prom, Howard and Marion are both going to the prom to chaperone. Howard in his tux, Marion in her business cash. But it's not the babysitter they expected. It's a different kind of frantic woman, older woman. And she said that the other babysitter had a gallbladder issue and would not be able to make it. So she's there. Howard informs Joni that it's this babysitter. And she said, oh, this babysitter always pinches my cheeks. That's no good. And then, of course, when Joni comes down, what's the first thing the babysitter does to Joni?
Pinches her cheeks.
Yeah. So then Marion's like, we got to get a photo of this night. And then Richie and Howard get up there. And you would think either Joni, well, I mean, Joni's, I'm guessing probably 11 since they said she had an 11-year-old friend, which seems like it's old enough to operate a camera, but she doesn't take the camera. The babysitter doesn't take the camera and say, hey, let's get everybody in here like, you know, you would do to somebody nowadays if you see a family trying to take a selfie. I feel like it would be nice to at least offer, you know, but the babysitter doesn't offer for Marion to jump in, but the babysitter jumps in the picture. So the babysitter gets in between Howard and Richie, and their memory is of Howard and Richie in their tux and the babysitter in her floral dress in between the two.
I know Howard's mad about taking a photo, and I don't even think that was the reason why. I think it was because he was saying that they were already late enough and whatnot.
Yeah.
And he was saying, like, Marion's just taking photos of just too many things. He was saying, I think there was one thing where he said, you took a photo of when Richie tried oatmeal for the first time.
Yeah, that's really odd because you're right. He did mention about how she just took too many pictures. And like nowadays, you could snap off 100 pictures in a couple minutes and, you know, you could just have them and download them and all that kind of stuff. But back in the day, you had to get those things developed. You only had maybe you could get a roll of 12. You know what I mean? Like you bought rolls of film and you only had this many exposures. So if your camera went off in your that camera was a big camera. I'm talking about later years. Okay. But let's just say you took a picture and people were blinking. Then you had to take another one. Then you only had 10 pictures left. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now it's limitless unless you run out of memory on your phone. So, yeah. So that's really odd that she took so many pictures when it had to be expensive too, buying all that film and developing them, you know?
Yeah.
And then they have these things called flash bulbs. Are you familiar with flash bulbs?
No.
Flash bulbs, well, now we have the flash built into the camera. You know how when you're inside, sometimes if it's a little darker, the flash goes off?
Yeah.
Well, back then on the cameras, they had flash bulbs, and that was yet another thing you had to buy. So these pictures of Richie and the Cunninghams are getting really expensive now that I think about it. All these expenses are adding up, developing film, flash bulbs. But then the flash bulb, remember how she took the flash bulb off and Howard caught it? He's like, oh, it's all hot, because those things would get hot because it was a literal flash, which doesn't seem very safe now that I think about it.
Yeah, and I think I remember her saying, drop it.
And he was just juggling it as it just kind of came. He's like, hot, 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 hot. And then, yeah, I think he did drop it. So, yeah. So they take these pictures. Then we cut to the dance. Howard and Marion are in there, and Marion is wearing a halo, which I feel like she was wearing it and then didn't. I feel like maybe there was some bad continuity there because I feel like for a second she wasn't wearing it and then she was wearing it again. Like she didn't like take it off and put it back on. But then this other gentleman, did you notice how he gave Howard a dirty look because he was wearing a halo and Howard wasn't wearing a halo? Did you notice that?
No.
Yeah, this other gentleman, this other parent chaperone, I'm guessing, he comes by and he like looks at Howard and gives him like a dirty look because he's wearing a halo. And Marion's like, "You're supposed to be wearing a halo." And Howard says something about why he's not wearing a halo. That is also weird. They're really dressing like the kid. Yeah. And the theme of this prom is called Teen Heaven, which I know there was a song called Teen Angel back then, but I mean, it's kind of an odd theme, I would think. I mean, do they still have themes for proms?
I believe so. There was one for my prom.
What was it? Do you remember?
I think it was like a fantasy kind of one. I don't really remember.
Did they have props and everything?
Not sure.
Okay. Like, I know for one of the proms when I was in high school, they would just take like the song titles. And I don't remember there being any like props. So, I mean, there's a Styx song called The Best of Time. So the prom theme was The Best of Time. Like the theme was just basically the song title. You know what I mean? That was that wasn't a song title, Teen Heaven, Teen Angel, I guess, but they're all wearing halos. There's like clouds, all this stuff going on for the prom there. And then Marion mentions that, you know, she's happy that Howard let him take the car to pick up Arlene in the car. And I'm just wondering, did they all climb in Ralph Malph's hot rod to get there if Richie took the car? How did they get to the prom?
I don't know. I would have taken Ralph Malph's hot rod, though. That's for sure.
That would be something if, like, all the chaperones crammed up into Ralph Malph's hot rod and you saw them all, like, drive it in Ralph Malph's hot rod.
Imagine just being on the road and you see just, like, Ralph Malph's, like, hot rod filled with people, and it looks so much like a clown car.
Yeah, and parents, too. It's one thing for all the friends, you know what I mean? But you see all these parents in formal wear, right, with Ralph Malph. What if someone challenged Ralph Malph to a drag race while all the parents were there? Do you think that he would, and then they said, "Ralph Malph, what are you, chicken?" Do you think he'd be more offended by being called chicken or saying that he wasn't funny? What would be the kind of kicking point for Ralph Malph to be in a drag race?
I think saying he's not funny because, listen, man, he takes comedy really seriously, and he's really good at it and everything.
Yeah.
So I feel like someone saying that his comedy sucks and whatnot, he would take that way too far.
Yeah. So as far as we know, that could be another episode. See, we're coming up. I feel like we have even more episodes than the original 255 Happy Days episodes just in these alternative Happy Days. You know what I mean? I mean, you just came up with the whole series movie documentary of Richie invented the Waka Waka dance, you know?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But then this episode of Ralph Malph getting into a drag race with all the parents, chaperones, and formal wear. Yeah. So Howard says that they can spike the punch, so he tastes the punch to see if it's spiked or not. And he doesn't really say, like, if he's happy if it's spiked or if he doesn't want it spiked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Richie and Arlene come in at some point. I don't remember when. We didn't take notes, so let's just say that they're in there. There wasn't really anything monumental about when they come in. But you know who does come into the prom? Fonzie. Fonzie's wearing a black tux. Everyone else is wearing like these white tux. He's wearing like the adults. Like Howard's wearing a black tux. He's wearing a black tux. And again, here's what I'm wondering. How old is Fonzie? Because if he dropped out, he's there at the prom, right? Is his date in high school and he's her date? You know what I mean? What's going on here?
Yeah, I don't know, actually. And also, I feel like his date is in high school is the thing.
Oh, yeah, she must be, because we'll get to that later. There is something that kind of tips us off to that later. And doesn't he throws either tickets at the adult chaperone? It didn't look like money. He throws these bits of paper at the chaperone. And we saw it twice. I had to rewind it. I'm like, what is he throwing at these people? Do you see like what it was? Could you decipher what that was?
Yeah, it was kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, but it was something that he just kind of threw nonchalantly at them. So he comes in, then Ralph Mouth comes up and he sees that Fonz, is wearing a black tuxedo different than everybody else. And he says, "Hey, Fonz, what time do you get back on the wedding cake?" And Fonzie does not take too kindly to these remarks. And he says something threatening to Ralph, right? But I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
But then Ralph's like, "No, you look great, Fonz." He said it probably at least 5 times. "Fonz, you look great. No, you look great." Which I'm going to tell you this. We'll talk more about it a little bit. Ralph Mouth's comedy does not go over well at the Teen Heaven prom.
Yeah. And also, I feel like, making fun of Fonzie was kind of just like a hint of that happening.
That's a death wish, making fun of Fonzie. You can go up to Howard and make fun of him, and Howard, might give Ralph Mouth a black eye. You know what I mean? But like,
not death.
Yeah, but Fonzie, man, that just no. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Exactly what you just said.
That'll end up being the last thing you say with Fonzie.
You'll see like Ralph Mouth's picture. I would assume they had newspapers back then. You'd see like Ralph Mouth's picture on the front page being like, "Man missing since prom." You know what I mean? And just never find him. It'll be like in Minnesota. Did they have Minnesota back in the 50s? I'm sure they did. I don't even know.
It'd be like the picture they'd use too is like the one that is shown on the opening screen, I feel, in the jukebox.
Yeah, it would just be, "This guy's missing. We don't know why." Then that cop that was so lenient on the Fonz, even though he drove away, he'd like question him. He'd be like, "Hey, Fonz, you know what happened to Ralph Mouth?" And Fonz was like, "No." And he'd be like, "That sounds good, Fonz."
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd probably blame it all on Moose.
Yeah, Moose wasn't in this. You'd think that they would need Moose as an extra at this prom. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if they're like trying to say that Moose couldn't get a date. Although I guess Arlene and Richie were technically going stag. I'm sure Moose could have gone stag.
I mean, he probably could have gotten someone. I mean, remember in the end of that one episode where he was getting with that one lady, he was dancing with her?
Yeah, I wonder what happened. Maybe they had a game of chicken too, and Moose and her fought the same way Richie did. You know what I mean? But yeah, you would think that he would have been there, Moose.
And then I wonder if one of them are in high school.
Who, Moose or the girl that he danced with?
Oh, either one of them.
Yeah, I wonder if Moose and Fonzie were in the same class, and what class that would be.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So then Howard and Marion are by this kind of door, and this lady walks in the door, and Howard has the map that Hot Lips has of all the makeout places. And he says, "Wait, this is a broom closet." And he opens it up, and Potsie is in there making time with the lady that walked in. And Howard's like, "Hey, Potsie." And like Potsie's like just kind of going out in shame back out onto the dance floor.
I wonder if like that changed like how Howard felt about Potsie.
Yeah, I really feel like he would have needed to wash his hands after that. You know what I mean? Remember how when he was a visitor, he always washed his hands when he saw Potsie?
Yeah.
That really would have been like he would have had to go and wash his hands after seeing Potsie trying to make time with that lady. So yeah, I know. I think, yeah, do you think he would have been like more impressed by Potsie? Or do you think he would have been more of like hating Potsie? I don't know if he hates Potsie, but which do you think would have been for Howard, a negative or a positive about Potsie after that?
I think he'd probably be proud of Potsie, and here's why.
Okay.
I think if he's, pulling a girl or whatever, that would mean that Potsie would put more of his attention towards the girl than towards Richie. Then he wouldn't go over to Richie's house.
Good point. So Richie and Arlene are over there by the punch bowl, and Potsie comes up and starts talking to them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Potsie's saying like, "Oh, it's good you two are back together," which, I don't know, did he not know that his best friend wasn't with the girl? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Richie's like, "No, we're just here, as friends." And then Potsie's like, "Hey, you want to dance to Arlene?" So he takes, which, again, I feel like Potsie's still in the right considering he was left pretty much for dead, passed out at the stag party.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, normally that wouldn't be good, but, you know, the complex relationship between Potsie and Richie. So Arlene goes and dances with Potsie. We cut to Marion and Howard. Howard's still not wearing the halo, which is good for him. You know what I mean? He's really standing on his ethics here.
Especially since he's not really part of the dance. He's helping, but,
Yeah.
like, he's not, like, participating in it.
Yeah, the parents / chaperones really shouldn't be taking part. They should be just making sure people aren't going in the broom closet or what have you. So they're there. Marion says, hey, you should dance with, I can't remember her name, but I would assume it was one of the teachers. And he's like, she's 72 years old. So it was an elderly lady. So Howard goes and he dances with the 72-year-old. Then Fonzie comes up to the punch bowl talking to Mrs. C and kind of says something like, I can't remember what he said, but it was kind of a very pick-up-ish line. And then he says, hey, you want to dance? So then Fonzie's dancing to the song Tequila. Sadly, no Danhausen, although he doesn't use it now. He used it kind of more in his independent days. Or no Pee Wee Herman. So he's dancing with Marion to Tequila. Howard's dancing with the elderly lady to Tequila as well, too. And Marion's like, oh, that's so sweet. She's got her head on your shoulder. And Howard's like, well, she's actually asleep. And Fonzie and Marion are dancing, having a good time while this is going on.
Poor Howard, man.
Yeah. So then we cut to the punch bowl again. Richie and Arlene are there. This time, Ralph Malph comes up and he asks Arlene to dance when he finds out that she's not back with Richie. Man, some kind of friends Richie's got, right?
Yeah,
Now-
I mean, like, with Potsie, it's fine because, like, well, you know, get back at him for leaving him at the stag party.
Yeah.
But Ralph Malph?
Yeah, and here's the thing. Ralph Malph's got quite the balls. First, he insults Fonzie's attire. Then he tries to take Richie's lady, even though, I mean, I know technically they're not together, but still, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she goes off and dances with him. So then they cut back. Arlene comes back. Richie, here's the thing. I don't know if you notice this. Richie's by the punch bowl, just kind of waiting as everybody's dancing with his former girlfriend. He has like a plate to get something. It looked like there was like a very small Cobb salad in front of him, and he picked up like just a little bit of the Cobb salad. To me, it seemed like he should have just eaten the whole Cobb salad. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe he wasn't that hungry, but what I'm trying to say is the hors d'oeuvres, if they only had a small Cobb salad for everybody, they put more of the money in the props, like the teen angel stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot of food there that I saw, just like a small Cobb salad that Richie helped himself to. So then she comes up. Richie's kind of mad. He's like, well, you've danced with everybody but the janitor and me. And she's like, well, the janitor didn't ask me. So again, Richie's being so passive aggressive instead of just saying like, hey, you want to dance? He's really chiding her about dancing with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she gets mad and kind of leaves. I think Richie might have left somewhere else too. I don't know. I don't remember seeing Richie. And then Ralph Malph gets on the loudspeaker and is like, hey, it's time to crown Miss, I think it was Miss Teen Angel, wasn't it? Something like
Yeah.
that. Something to that effect. And then there were 2 runners up. And then he makes a joke. He says, before we do that, I got a message from the principal. You're all expelled. And then he does like that kind of face where he's like expecting a big reaction. And then they cut to the crowd. And even the closed captions say like silence. Like nobody says anything.
No one moves, no one moves a muscle.
Yeah, it was like the still frame, the reaction shot of like when they're playing basketball and he's jumping up in the air saying, pass me the ball. They're all just still after he says you're all expelled.
They're just staring at him.
Yeah. And then he goes, but anyways, let's name. And then he names like somebody. I don't even remember who. I don't know if it was anybody. I don't think it was Trudy or anybody we've known before. It was like number 2 and like everybody cheers. He's like, the first runner up, Arlene, like Richie's girlfriend. I can't remember her last name. And then she's not there because she stormed off. And like they're recognizing that like she doesn't come up because runner-up number 2 came up, then she doesn't come up, and Ralph goes, "Hey, talk about a sore loser," and he kind of makes that face again where he's like expecting all the laughs. And again, they cut to the crowd and it's like the same still shot. It just says silence. Nobody says anything.
Poor Ralph Mouth, man.
Yeah, he's coming out with his A game. He's insulting the Fonz. He's coming up there, as the MC for this particular part, at least. So Arlene isn't there. And then they're like, all right, the winner is, and I can't remember her name, but oh, here's what they say. They're like, the winner gets to parade around in like some kind of cloud. Well, we'll talk about what it is in a second, but it gets to like parade around in the teen heaven cloud or what have you. Just them and their court watches, I guess. I don't know. But so then it ends up being Fonzie's date. And Fonzie is not happy because he has to get this guy rides up in what used to be like an ice cream, probably what they had in the 50s. It looked like one of those ice cream bicycles where they had like a little bicycle and they would put like the ice cream at the back. But this one is like a big cloud with the bicycle. So this guy pedals in on this bike with this big cloud on it. And Fonzie is none too happy. He has to get on the bike with his date and parade around. So, and they're all throwing angel dust on them as they do this.
Didn't they crown his date or whatever? And then he was going to crown the Fonz and he's like, don't put that on me.
Yes, exactly. As they climb onto this bike, they crown her. And then he's like, it wasn't Ralph Mouth even that was going to put the crown on. I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. And he's like, oh, okay, Fonz.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Good catch. Yeah. He's like going to put the crown on Fonz, and Fonz like, don't even think about it. And he's like, yeah, okay, Fonz. So Ralph Mouth is again having a bad night. You think this is a worse night for Ralph Mouth than when he couldn't drive his own hot rod in the drag race and he couldn't wave the white flag?
I don't know, because like the thing is he had to probably walk all that way down the road just to get sent to the police station.
Yeah, so probably not as bad of a night, but still not a good night for Ralph Mouth.
And then he also had to figure out like how to get up to the second story of Richie's house. And then he also had to figure out how he'd get down.
Yeah, so they're riding around and then they're throwing something called angel dust, which I don't know how that got past the censors in 1974. Angel dust is also a name for a particular kind of drug, just to let you know. But it wasn't, I don't think, a drug that they were. That would be something if they did get that past the censors and they were literally throwing angel dust, the drug, on them. But I don't think it was. It was just, it looked like glitter. So they're throwing angel dust on Fonzie and the girl as they're kind of ran by. Fonzie's the one pedaling the bike now.
Was it called angel dust back then?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know what they called anything in the 50s. I would assume in 1974 it was called angel dust, though. So maybe the producers were like, hey, they didn't have angel dust in the 50s, but let's just say angel dust. You know what I mean? And then but anyways, it was glitter. So they're throwing it, and then Fonzie's getting into it on like the third lap. Like he's smiling, having a good old time as his tux gets soaked with not a drug, but glitter.
Yeah.
So, and also we kind of missed this, but Howard opened the door to the broom closet earlier and Ralph Mouth came out. So again, he's having a bad night. Remember, like kind of in between Potsie and in between this?
Yeah.
Ralph Mouth came out with his date. And I don't even know. Did he say like Ralph? Does he know who Ralph Mouth is? I don't know. He knows who Potsie is.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah. But anyway, okay. So let's get to one of the final scenes then. They're by the broom closet yet again. This is after Fonzie's ride on the bike. The Ralph Mouth thing was kind of a few scenes over with the girl. I think it was before Ralph Mouth even danced with Arlene, which is kind of weird that he was trying to make time with the lady, then he dances with his friend's girl. Yeah. So then Howard and Marion are once again by the broom closet after Fonzie drives around, opens the door, and Arlene and Richie are in there. So they are seemingly back together.
Howard even tells Arlene, your name was mentioned up there.
Yeah, he does tell her that she was a runner-up. So then we cut to the final scene. Howard and Marion are kind of sitting around by the punch bowl. Howard makes a joke about the punch. Either it was spiked or it wasn't, can't remember. But as they're doing this, the janitor, the one person Arlene didn't dance with, is sweeping behind them, sweeping everything up. Here's what I'm wondering. Why are those two still there? I don't see any other parent chaperones, you know?
Yeah.
And that janitor's trying to get his work done. I feel like they're just making it worse for him. He didn't even get to dance with Arlene.
Yeah.
So they make a joke about the punch. Then Marion says something about, you used to chase me around the oak tree. You should go chase me around. And Howard's like, I'm an older man now. I can't run. And then he looks at the map and he's like, how about the football field? That has force. Maybe. I don't know. This might not be the thing. And then she's like, no, the oak tree. So then they get up and then I guess he apparently chases around the oak tree. And that is the episode.
Boy, what an episode.
Yeah.
Horrible Howard or helpful Howard?
Yes. Okay. I'm going to say helpful Howard. I mean, he was helpful enough. He wore a tux. He went to chaperone. The one thing that I think might have been horrible is him kind of suggesting that Arlene was his only hope to go to the prom. You know, that isn't quite a confidence booster.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say helpful Howard. What do you say?
But there's more positives than negatives.
Yeah, I think it was just that one negative. But he might have also been talking about she might have been the only one available because I think Richie did say earlier in the episode, like, everybody else already had a date. So,
yeah.
I don't think anybody else played chicken and left their girlfriend right before prom. But, yeah, what do you say?
I would say, helpful Howard?
Yes. So there we are, episode 9 of season 1. Breaking up is hard to do. And I feel like they played, they did play a popular song. They played Tequila. I feel like there was another one too. So again, I'm wondering, like, do they have to pay royalties for these or was that something? I know I've said that in an early episode, but I'm just really astounded. I know it's a simple Google search, but yes. All right. So then if there's nothing else, we'll wrap this episode up. My question for you as always is, do you want to see another episode?
Oh, whoa. Yes.
I feel like that was even longer than last week, which last week I could totally see. So I don't know. I'm getting more nervous. But great news. We will make it to the double digits at least because the next will be episode 10 of season 1. Happy days. If you like that, please spread the word, like, subscribe. We're on YouTube. We're on all the streaming services. Tell everyone you know unless you did not like it. In that case, please keep it to yourself. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
What's happy days?